The question arrives like a whisper in the dark, a thought that feels borrowed from someone who has already died inside these metal walls. Before you even understand the meaning, the idea coils itself around your mind, the notion that stepping onto an Imperial Navy void ship is not an assignment, it's a surrender. Not of your body, which the Imperium already owns, but of your future, which the void quietly consumes one heartbeat at a time. The echo of that question follows you as you enter the shadow of the warship, a vessel so immense it seems to blot out the stars behind it. It rises like an ancient titan built not of steel, but of centuries of war, sacrifice, and the unspoken truth that only the Emperor's light keeps it from drifting into madness. Your lungs fill with the strange, metallic-tinted air of the docking spire, and even that simple action feels like crossing a threshold. This is not the open wind of a world under a sun. This is the recycled breath of tens of thousands who lived, and many who died, before you set foot here. Every inhale carries the heaviness of history, of fear, of routine desperation. The ship's distant engines hum like the heartbeat of something too large to be alive, yet too restless to ever die. It is a constant vibration beneath your feet, a reminder that you are no longer on solid ground, but on a moving cathedral built for relentless war. There is a subtle pressure in your chest, not from fear alone, but from the oppressive atmosphere of the place. Even before you board, you sense it, the ship watches. Not as a creature would, with eyes or curiosity, but with the silent, mechanical judgment of a machine spirit older than your lineage. Stories whisper that these ship spirits remember every man who served within them, every scream, every prayer, every final breath. And though you try to ignore such superstitions, it is impossible not to feel the weight of unseen expectations settling on your shoulders like chains. You hear the murmuring of other recruits around you, though no one speaks loudly. Voices drop to fearful hushes in the presence of the colossal hull, as if someone might hear and take offense, not an officer, not a commander, but the ship itself. Some recruits look upward, their faces pale beneath the harsh lumen lights, struggling to comprehend the impossible scale above them. Others stare straight ahead, refusing to glance at the runes carved into the hull plating, the sigils painted with blood oil, the lines of incense trailing like ghosts in the air. Discipline, or denial, it's hard to tell which. The closer you move, the more you feel the boundaries of your old life slipping away. Your memories of open skies, of friends, of family, begin to feel like someone else's story. Inside these walls, individuality dissolves. You are not a person, you are a necessary component, a replaceable fragment of a massive, grinding machine designed to tear apart the Emperor's enemies. This understanding does not arrive with drama or fanfare. It seeps quietly into your mind as the towering boarding ramp hisses open, releasing a breath of warm, recycled air from within the ship's lungs. Something in that air feels wrong. Not dangerous, just old. As if the ship has been breathing the same breath for 1,000 years, exhaling its history into the bodies of every new crew member who dares enter. You stand at the threshold, watching the cavernous entryway pulse with dim amber lights. They flicker in slow, methodical rhythms not unlike the blinking of a tired giant. The sound is deeper here. Metallic groans echo down unseen corridors, distant machinery grinds in endless cycles, and somewhere far within, a hollow thud repeats with unsettling regularity, like a ritual drum marking the passing of souls. You pause. Without meaning to. Everyone does. It is the final moment when you can still step back. Still pretend you never arrived. Still imagine a life that isn't bound to this warship, this floating coffin, this relentless, consuming duty. But hesitation is a luxury the Navy does not permit, and behind you, the line of recruits presses forward with uneasy steps. The air feels colder on your neck, as though the void itself is urging you inside. And with that first unwilling step, the question returns, quietly, insistently. What if entering this ship is not simply the start of your service, but the end of everything you once were? The truth is, the real terror begins long before you enter the ship. It starts the moment you approach the docking spire, the colossal metal tower that feeds crew, cargo, and hope directly into the waiting jaws of an Imperial Navy warship. You walk toward it with the rest of the new recruits, boots echoing on the cold steel, each step heavier than the last. The closer you draw, the more you feel an invisible pressure tightening around your chest, as though the ship itself is pulling you in with a silent, ancient hunger. At first, you try to focus on the grandeur. The towering arches, the layers of stained metal decorated with half-faded imperial sigils, the incense drifting from burning censers held by robed attendants who chant prayers not for your safety, but for your obedience. Everything around you is designed to overwhelm the senses, to make you feel small, to remind you that you are entering something holy and merciless. Here, the line between faith and fear blurs until you can't tell which one is guiding your feet. Around you, the spire trembles with life. Giant servo arms shift massive crates as if they weigh nothing. Chains rattle as transport clamps snap into place. The air is thick with the scent of machine oil, burnt metal, and the faint tang of ozone. Tech priests shuffle through the haze like rusted apparitions, faces hidden behind skull-faced masks, mechanical limbs clicking as they whisper binary hymns to appease the ship's machine spirit. Even they look uneasy, as if they sense something stirring inside the warship that should have stayed asleep. Your heartbeat quickens, not from excitement, but from the dawning realization that nothing here belongs to you. Not your time, not your breath, not even your fear. Everything is claimed by the Navy. Everything is taken by the void. And yet, despite the dread tightening around your spine, something pulls you forward. A strange curiosity. A need to witness what awaits inside the vessel that will soon become your entire universe. Because the whispered stories you've heard, the ones about rituals, sleepless nights, and decks lost to time, couldn't all be true, could they? That's why you keep walking. Because the unknown is terrifying, yes. But the truth is worse. And somewhere inside you, a part of your mind wants to understand exactly how bad life can become in a place where the Emperor's light doesn't always reach. So you take one more step. Then another. And before we go deeper, here's your reward for staying with this story. By the end of this entire journey, you will discover the one truth about Imperial Navy life that veterans never share with anyone, not even each other. A truth whispered only once in a lifetime, and never repeated. For now, you stand at the edge of the docking spire, staring into the vast open maw of the warship ahead of you, a vessel so massive and ancient that its hull seems to drink in the surrounding light. And without warning, a feeling washes over you. The unsettling certainty that the ship has noticed you. And it is waiting. That unspoken question sinks deeper into your mind as you step through the towering gates of the docking. Spire's inner sanctum, a chamber vast enough to swallow a city square, yet claustrophobic in a way that makes your skin crawl. The heavy doors seal behind you with a grinding shudder, and for a moment, the silence that follows feels like the ship inhaling, preparing itself for new blood. Every recruit stiffens. No one speaks. Because everyone has heard the rumors of what comes next. The initiation ritual. It isn't just a formality. It's a test of loyalty, purity, and purpose, a final threshold meant to strip away whatever you were before and reshape you into something the Navy can use. Something obedient. Something expendable. Servitors line the walls, their once human eyes replaced with dull lenses that glow faintly in the dim light. Some move mechanically, limbs stiff and jerky, as they carry scanning devices and purity seals. Others remain still, welded into alcoves like grotesque statues, their chests rising and falling in harsh, unnatural rhythms. Every breath they take is a reminder of what happens to those who fail the Imperium's expectations. The first part of the ritual begins without warning. Metal arches descend from the ceiling, humming with a cold, sterile energy. They activate one by one, bathing the chamber in flickering white light. As recruits step forward, the arches scan them, bones, blood, memories, seeking hidden corruption or forbidden mutations. If the machine spirit inside that arch finds something it does not like, it does not hesitate. You've heard stories of recruits who vanished during this stage, their existence quietly erased. The Navy doesn't acknowledge these disappearances. It simply removes the file, seals the incident, and moves on. When your turn comes, your heartbeat becomes a weapon against you, pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. The air beneath the arch feels colder, heavier, as if gravity itself wants to crush you into obedience. A piercing beam sweeps over your body from head to toe, crawling across your skin like the gaze of a predator. For a moment, just a moment, you feel something inside the machine pause. Consider you, judge you, and then, it moves on. You pass. But there's no relief. Because passing means the next part begins. You're directed toward a circular platform where officers in navy blue coats stand beneath banners adorned with the Imperial Aquila. These officers don't look at you as individuals. Their eyes slide past you like your inventory, because that's what you are. Their voices carry the cold efficiency of people who have seen far too many faces come and go. One steps forward, holding a ceremonial purity seal soaked in incense smoke. He speaks the words that every recruit must repeat, words that have been carved into the minds of sailors for thousands of years. I offer my body to the void, my strength to the fleet, my fear to the Emperor's flame, and my life to his eternal war. The chamber echoes with the unified, strained voices of recruits repeating the vow. Your throat feels tight as you speak the final line, because the weight of those words settles on you like a chain. You know that this oath is not symbolic. It is literal. The Navy does not release those it claims. Not alive, not whole. After the vow, the officer presses the purity seal to your chest. The wax burns hot against your uniform, searing the symbol into place. The pain is sharp, bright, and strangely grounding. For a moment, it feels like a new heartbeat, one not entirely your own. Then comes the last stage of the ritual. A tech priest approaches, his voice a mechanical whisper layered with static. He recites ancient Binharic rites while lifting a small brass device humming with sacred energy. Without explanation, he clamps it onto your palm. A jolt of electricity tears through your nerves. Your vision flashes white. You gasp. And just when you think your body might collapse, the pain stops as quickly as it began. A small sigil glows faintly on your skin. A mark of acceptance. A mark of ownership. You now belong to the ship. You now belong to the war. As you step away from the ritual area, your hand trembling, you realize something subtle has changed. The sense of being watched is stronger. More personal. As if the ship's machine spirit has taken note of your presence, and is deciding where you fit in its vast, grinding anatomy. You are no longer a visitor. You are part of the crew. And the warship is hungry. That question haunts you as the final gate opens with a deep metallic groan, old, tired, and impossibly heavy. There's no ceremony as you enter, no welcoming speech, no officer waiting to guide you. Instead, there is a single sensation that hits you immediately, violently, and without mercy, the smell. Not foul, not filthy, just ancient. A suffocating mixture of burned incense, machine oil, recycled air, and something else, something metallic and faintly warm, like the aftertaste of static clinging to your tongue. The corridor ahead yawns open like the throat of a colossal beast. Every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, is packed with pipes, cabling, prayer scrolls, and warning sigils. Thick bundles of conduit snake along the metal plates like exposed veins, carrying power, oxygen, and the whispers of the ship's machine spirit. Dim lumen strips flicker overhead, casting long, trembling shadows that dance across the rusted rivets and faded Imperial Aquilas. You take your first step onto the metal decking, and the entire ship seems to feel it. A low vibration hums beneath your boots, not the steady, rhythmic pulse of an engine, but something more irregular. A mechanical heartbeat trying to sync with your own. For a moment, you don't know if it's your imagination or if the warship truly reacts when fresh souls enter its body. The older crew members speak of this often. The ship knows who is new. The ship knows who will break. The thought lingers. Around you, the other recruits form a loose column, moving forward with stiff, uncertain motions. Even the loudest among them have fallen silent, their bravado crushed by the oppressive atmosphere. This isn't a place meant for conversation. This is a place meant for obedience. A veteran petty officer stands waiting further down the corridor. His expression is a permanent scowl etched by decades of harsh discipline and worse memories. His uniform is worn but immaculate, his posture rigid, his gaze sharp enough to slice through armor. He doesn't speak at first. He lets the silence do its work. It wraps around the recruits like a noose, tightening until someone shifts nervously and the metal floor creaks beneath them. Only then does the officer speak. And his voice, though calm, feels like a verdict. "Look closely," he says. "Every corridor, every bolt, every shadow here has outlived better men than you. Remember that." He gestures deeper into the ship, and the group moves forward. As you walk, the environment changes subtly. The air becomes warmer, the hum becomes louder, and the corridors begin to twist. None are straight, none are simple. Void ships aren't built, they are grown, layer upon layer, century after century, until the original architecture is buried beneath generations of retrofits. The result is a labyrinth of steel arteries where getting lost is not a possibility, it's an inevitability. You pass maintenance alcoves where servitors clank mechanically, their metal hands polishing sacred machine panels. Some are chained in place, their eyes replaced with glowing lenses that never blink. Others hang suspended from ceiling mounts, their bodies limp until the ship summons them to life. Their presence is unsettling, a reminder that humanity is only one step away from the fate of these mindless workers. Further ahead, you begin to hear chanting. It rises from a shrine carved into a bulkhead, an alcove filled with candles, purity seals, and a cracked stone relief of the Emperor. Crew members pause as they pass, muttering prayers, tapping the aquila on their chests, or bowing their heads just slightly. Even officers bow. Even tech priests twitch their head cables in acknowledgement. No one passes without offering something, not out of faith alone, but out of fear. Because on a void ship, superstition is survival. You slow your pace as you approach, feeling eyes on you, not from people, but from the walls themselves. Every plate along the corridor is engraved with runes of protection, warnings, invocations. The ship is a battlefield of faith and engineering, stitched together by hope and iron. And somewhere deep within this labyrinth, its machine spirit stirs, ancient and restless. The officer notices your hesitation. "Keep moving," he says quietly. "You'll have time to pray later. You'll need to." You swallow the knot of dread lodged in your throat. Because you understand now, entering this ship is not stepping into a workplace. It is stepping into a world. A world that does not care if you live or die. A world that demands everything and gives nothing back. A world where the void outside is not the only thing waiting to consume you. With every step deeper into the corridors, you feel the truth solidifying in your chest. You are inside the warship. And the warship is inside you. That thought sinks into you the moment the petty officer leads the group down a narrow, sloping passageway marked with peeling red hazard stripes. The deeper you go, the more the corridor tightens, shrinking around you like the throat of some metallic serpent. Gone are the wide receiving bays and towering chambers. Here, the ship feels cramped, oppressive, and strangely alive. The lights flicker more often. The air grows hotter, heavier. You can feel sweat forming on your back beneath the uniform you've barely broken in. A faint smell clings to the air, old metal, stale breath, and something damp. It's not rot, it's not mold, it's simply humanity. Years and years of it, soaked into the walls long after the original occupants were spaced, died, or reassigned to positions they never returned from. You arrive at a heavy sliding door that wheezes open like an old lung. Inside, the first thing you notice is the ceiling height, low enough that even average height crew have to duck slightly. The quarters are nothing more than a series of stacked metal bunks, arranged like coffins welded into the wall. They stretch in long rows, barely wide enough for a person to crawl into. Each bunk has a thin mattress, a flickering lumen, and a metal drawer beneath it. Privacy doesn't exist here. Comfort doesn't exist here. Even air circulation seems like an afterthought. The petty officer steps aside, watching with crossed arms as the recruits file in. "Your bunk is your home," he says. "Treat it well. Many before you died in theirs." It's impossible to tell if he means this literally, or as motivation. You pick a bunk, because there is no assignment, no guidance. You take what is open, and you do it fast, before someone stronger or more desperate decides for you. When you crawl inside, the metal groans under your weight, as if annoyed by the intrusion. The lumen flickers, casting pale yellow light across walls scratched with the names, or perhaps the final thoughts, of those who once slept there. Some messages are simple. Silence is survival. Others are carved deeper, almost angrily. "Don't trust the vents." And one sentence, etched right above your head, sends a cold pressure down your spine. Something walks at night. You stare at the words longer than you should. They feel wrong, too specific, too desperate. But before your mind can wander further, the petty officer taps a data slate and begins reciting the rules of the quarters. His tone is dead, practiced, unconcerned. "Lights out is signaled by the ship. You'll know it when it happens. Do not leave your bunk after that unless ordered. Do not wander. Do not speak. And under no circumstances, and I mean none, should you respond to whispers. Even if they sound familiar." A few recruits exchange nervous glances. You don't. You stare straight ahead, trying to keep your breathing steady. Is he trying to scare you? Or is he telling the truth? Neither possibility is comforting. He continues. "If you hear footsteps in the passageway after lockdown, ignore them. They will not be for you. Do not look. Do not ask questions." It's a simple rule. Terrifyingly simple. Finally, the officer moves toward the door. "There are over 30,000 souls aboard this vessel," he says without turning. "Not all of them have bodies anymore." The door seals behind him with a metallic thud that echoes through the room like a final sentence. Silence settles in. Not peace, just silence. Thick, heavy, artificial. You sit on your bunk, your back pressed against the cold wall, letting your eyes adjust to the dim light. Every sound becomes magnified, the rumbling pipes above, the whispered breathing of the other recruits, the faint heartbeat-like hum of the ship's engines. Someone coughs. Someone else mutters a prayer. Somewhere deeper inside the walls, something creaks. It doesn't sound mechanical. You lie back slowly, staring at the carved words above your head. Something walks at night, and for the first time since you arrived, you feel a new kind of fear. Not of the officers, not of the Navy, not even of the war, but of the ship itself. The ancient, hollow thing you are now trapped inside. The thing that might not be entirely alone. Would it be the vibrations under your boots, the ever-present metallic tang in the recycled air, or the crushing awareness that millions of tons of armored starship are floating through the void with you trapped deep inside? Every crew member aboard quickly learns that life here isn't measured by days, but by drills, alarms, and the constant weight of duty. Even when the ship is quiet, even when there are no orders or battles looming on the horizon, the atmosphere never lets you forget where you are, inside one of the deadliest machines humanity ever forged. You start to notice the routines people cling to, not because they want to, but because small rituals are the only anchors against the madness of deep void isolation. Some crew members polish their boots until they reflect like black mirrors. Others carve marks into bulkheads, tallying days, shifts, or memories of home they know they'll never see again. And then there are those who whisper quiet prayers to the Emperor before every shift, not out of piety alone, but because the idea of his gaze watching over this metal labyrinth gives them a sliver of comfort. In the Navy, even hope is a regimented commodity. But the deeper you wander into the internal guts of the warship, the more you realize that this floating fortress is alive, not just with machine spirits humming behind every surface, but with the tension of thousands of human souls trying to survive it. Laughter is rare, almost suspicious, as if the ship itself resents anything that breaks its solemn rhythm. And when someone does laugh, it's sharp, brief, and usually followed by someone else checking over their shoulder for officers or servitors. Joy is almost an act of rebellion here, and the Navy tolerates very little rebellion of any kind. Every corridor reminds you of the staggering hierarchy that governs this place. Enlisted crew shuffle in straight lines, officers stride with clipped precision, and tech priests glide past like red-robed ghosts humming in binary. There's no mistaking who holds power. It radiates from the way people move, speak, and even breathe. A single misplaced step or an ill-timed question can earn you latrine duty for a week, or worse, a disciplinary lashing where the bulkhead echoes with each strike. Punishment, after all, is the one universal language aboard every Imperial ship. And yet, for all the rigidity and fear, there's a strange sense of belonging that creeps into you the longer you remain aboard. Not because the ship is welcoming, it absolutely isn't, but because hardship binds its crew together in ways nothing else can. In the void, your only family is the person suffering beside you. Your only sanctuary is the Emperor, and even he feels distant in the endless dark. But the ship becomes a constant. A harsh, unloving guardian, but one you grow to trust because you're forced to. More than anything, though, it's the silence between events that shapes life aboard an Imperial warship. That eerie quiet before a battle. That long pause during warp travel where you swear you hear whispers in the vents. That breath held when a senior officer pauses behind you just a beat too long. In those silences, every crew member feels the same thing. The truth that the void doesn't care if you live or die, and the ship might not either. One moment, the halls are filled with the steady drone of engines and the distant clatter of maintenance crews. The next, a piercing klaxon tears through the ship like a blade, and everything changes in an instant. Conversations die mid-sentence, tools are dropped, meals are abandoned, and every soul aboard, no matter how exhausted, leaps into motion as if the Emperor himself just barked an order. The atmosphere thickens with urgency as orders ripple down the chain of command. Officers shout over Vox channels, their voices clipped and metallic, echoing through the steel arteries of the vessel. Crews scramble into position with a precision that only fear and repetition can forge. Even the lights seem to sharpen, shifting to the red glow that signals imminent engagement. Suddenly, the ship feels smaller, tighter, as if the very walls have leaned in to listen. The metal beneath your boots vibrates harder. The machine's spirits groan. The guns begin waking from their slumber. You can feel life aboard the ship tightening around you, pulling you into its rhythm whether you're ready or not. Macro cannon crews rush to loading stations, arms already aching from the weight of massive shells. Gunners whisper short prayers, hoping the Emperor guides their aim. Tech priests chant Binharic hymns as they anoint sacred weapon systems, each syllable meant to appease the slumbering machine spirits. They know that if the spirits falter at the wrong moment, entire decks could burn. Down in the lower decks, the air grows hotter and heavier with every passing second. Plasma coils scream as energy levels spike. The reactors thrum like a giant heartbeat. Crew members guard their stations with white-knuckled focus, knowing that any miscalculation, any slip, could ignite the bowels of the ship and vaporize thousands in a flash. The tension is so thick you can almost taste the ozone in the air. But among all the chaos, there's something else, something unspoken. It's the unity that only war can forge. Crew who barely speak to each other during routine shifts now exchange short nods, quick confirmations, a silent acknowledgement that they rely on each other. For survival, rank still matters, discipline still rules, but in the heat of preparation, the divides blur. Every soul aboard shares the same fear, the same anticipation, the same hope that they will live to see the next shift. And then, just as the ship reaches its fever pitch of activity, a new sound rolls through the bulkheads, deep, resonant, unmistakable. The moment the void shields hum to full power, everyone feels it. It's like standing beneath a storm cloud right as it forms, the air crackling with potential destruction. This is the final signal that the calm is gone. The warship is committed. Whatever comes next will shape the fate of everyone aboard. Life on an Imperial Navy warship is never peaceful, but in these moments, you understand just how fragile every second truly is. The answer becomes painfully clear after the first few weeks. At first, it is subtle, a nervous twitch, a fleeting sense of dread, a nightmarish dream that feels more real than any waking moment. You convince yourself it's just fatigue. The long hours, the endless drills, the constant pressure to be perfect, it's normal to feel on edge. But gradually, that tension seeps into every thought, every action. Sleep becomes shallow. Your dreams are invaded by the ship's endless corridors, by the hiss of vents, by the whispering echoes of distant decks you've never set foot on. You wake sweating, your uniform sticking to your skin, the sound of machinery echoing in your ears even when everything is quiet. Isolation does more than tire you, it reshapes you. Outside, the universe is infinite and terrifying, but inside, every wall, every bulkhead, every locked hatch feels like a cage. The void outside is a threat, yes, but the endless corridors, the hum of the engines, the flickering lights, the oppressive air, that is your constant companion. It's a presence that weighs on your chest. It follows you from deck to deck, whispering reminders that the ship never sleeps, and neither can you. Some crew turn to ritual to survive. They whisper prayers at shrines that line every corridor. They tap sacred sigils, they light incense, they repeat mechanical chants taught to them by older sailors. Others lose themselves in repetition, cleaning machinery for hours, walking the same corridors, counting screws or tallying days in the margins of data slates. Anything to impose order on the chaos of the void. Anything to feel that they are still human, even if the ship's walls seem intent on proving otherwise. Hallucinations are common. You begin to question what is real. A flicker of movement in the corner of your vision might be a fellow recruit, or it might be a shadow cast by a bulkhead. A whisper down an empty corridor might be an officer checking orders, or the void itself teasing you. Entire decks are said to disappear for hours, only to reappear with minor adjustments to bulkheads and conduits, leaving fresh recruits shaken and veterans silent. Some swear they've seen shapes moving in the machinery, shadows that can't be human. And the stories spread quietly, just enough to instill fear, but never enough to confirm the truth. That's how the ship maintains its power. Fear becomes routine. Sanity becomes optional. For some, the psychological strain becomes unbearable. Recruits vanish from bunkrooms without a trace. Others snap under the pressure, lashing out in fits of rage or despair that must be contained before they take others with them. Discipline is swift and merciless, not only to punish but to reinforce the unspoken rule: you do not own yourself here. The ship owns you. Even those who endure the longest are changed. When a crewman finally emerges onto an open deck or glimpses a distant star, the sight is both exhilarating and horrifying. The mind, starved of sunlight and air and freedom, recoils and struggles to process the enormity of the universe. You realize then that life aboard an Imperial Navy warship does not simply test strength or skill. It tests your very identity, eroding it piece by piece until all that remains is duty, fear, and the ship's quiet insistence that you belong to it, fully and irrevocably. And yet, somehow, the crew persists. Some call it faith, some call it training, some call it madness, but above all, it is survival, because in the void, survival is all that matters. Life aboard an Imperial Navy vessel is not only defined by discipline and duty, it is also defined by the unexplained. The void is a dangerous place, but the warship itself has its own secrets, its own ways of reminding the crew that they are never truly alone. Sometimes it starts with a sound, a distant metallic clang, a door sliding open with no one at the controls, a whispering hiss through the vent systems. At first, you convince yourself it is fatigue. Perhaps it's a loose panel, a misfiring servitor, a trick of your imagination. But over time, these incidents become patterns, too consistent to dismiss. Crew members disappear for hours, or days, only to reappear, shaken, refusing to speak of what they saw or heard. Some claim to have walked corridors that shouldn't exist, stairways leading to machinery that the schematics insist aren't there. Others swear they glimpsed figures in the shadows, neither human nor servitor, moving silently just beyond their line of sight. The more junior recruits speak of whispering voices that echo their own thoughts back at them, sometimes mocking, sometimes commanding. Sleep deprivation magnifies these experiences, but even the most seasoned sailors cannot fully explain them. The deeper truth is far darker. The ship, ancient and immense, has layers of construction older than most crew can comprehend. Hidden decks, sealed compartments, maintenance tunnels abandoned centuries ago. Some of these places are said to harbor entities that should not exist. Some whisper that the warp itself leaks into these areas, creating pockets where the laws of reality fray. Others say the ship's machine spirits occasionally awaken beyond their normal routines, acting as guardians, or punishers, reminding the crew that they are expendable. Even the simplest of tasks can take on a nightmarish quality. Walking from one deck to another, you might hear your own name called in a tone you do not recognize. Tools move when no one touches them. Bulkheads hum with life. Sometimes, a crewman will see their reflection in polished steel and notice an expression, or a feature, that they do not recall. The ship is alive in ways the human mind struggles to process, and it is patient. It waits. It watches. It learns. Paranoia becomes a survival skill. Crew members whisper warnings to each other about corridors that shift, shadows that linger too long, and the importance of never wandering alone. Even officers adhere to these unspoken rules, knowing that the ship is more than metal and plasma. It is a vessel of secrets, some benign, some deadly, and some incomprehensible. A single misstep, a single moment of inattention, can lead to loss of life, or worse, loss of mind. The most chilling experiences are often reported in the dead hours, when the ship hums at near silence, and only the machinery's low vibrations fill the corridors. In these moments, some swear they see impossible things, lights floating without fixtures, doors that appear where none should be, or shadows moving contrary to their source. Those who claim such visions are often shunned or quietly reassigned. Few speak openly, because admitting such things publicly marks you as unstable, a dangerous liability on a vessel where fear and caution are essential for survival. And yet, these strange events are not always destructive. Sometimes, they seem almost purposeful, as if the ship itself is teaching, warning, or testing the crew. Whether malevolent or neutral, the message is unmistakable. Aboard an Imperial Navy warship, nothing is as it seems. Reality bends, the corridors are alive, and the line between human and machine, sanity and madness, is thinner than you ever imagined. You learn quickly. To survive here, you must obey, adapt, and fear. Not just the enemy outside, but the warship itself, and the whispers that dwell in every shadowed deck. By now, the truth has settled into your mind with a slow, creeping certainty. Life aboard an Imperial Navy warship is not a choice, it is a surrender. Every corridor, every bulkhead, every flickering lumen is part of a system that does not merely tolerate you. It observes, measures, and consumes you, little by little, until what remains of your former self is barely recognizable. The machinery hums, the engines thrum, the ship itself breathes in a rhythm that no human heartbeat could match. And all the while, you understand that the void outside is nothing compared to the void within. You've seen the rituals, felt the drills, endured the claustrophobia, and survived the strange events that warp the mind. You've slept in quarters that seem designed to remind you how small and mortal you are. You've witnessed the crew adapt, break, pray, and obey. And now, as alarms blare and the ship roars with energy, you feel the culmination of everything. The sheer hunger of a vessel that has lived for centuries, grown from war, and sustained by the obedience of thousands of souls like yours. In this moment, the ship is more than steel and plasma. It is an organism, ancient and insatiable, aware of every step you take. You move through the corridors, heart hammering, muscles tense, aware that every vibration, every groan of metal, every flicker of light is a message: you belong to me. You are no longer a recruit, no longer a visitor. You are a part of this infinite, breathing labyrinth, and it will not release you lightly. Somewhere in the lower decks, machinery hums louder, as if resonating with the fear and anticipation in your chest. In the distance, the echoes of drill sirens mix with whispered prayers and the clatter of boots. The ship is alive with purpose, moving with a precision and ferocity that dwarfs human comprehension. And yet, it does not move for you, it moves despite you, indifferent to the desires, the dreams, or the terrors of those aboard. It has a hunger that can never be sated, a drive that can never be redirected. And so you walk on, step after step, through the endless corridors, past sleeping crews, past the flickering shadows, past the whispering vents. You understand that the Imperial Navy does not reward heroism, comfort, or courage in the traditional sense. It rewards survival. It demands obedience. And in the rare moments you glimpse sunlight through the viewport or the distant stars beyond, it reminds you that freedom is a lie and safety an illusion. Life aboard this warship is total. It is absolute. And it is never ending. You have been tested. You have been claimed. And somewhere, deep within the hull, the ship is already preparing for the next moment, its next breath, its next pulse, its next opportunity to shape and consume the lives entrusted to it.